in-depth experience. So I have a friend in Huerta. He got me an apartment.
So again, my name is Mireya Gomez Contreras. I live and I work in this beautiful community of Watsonville. We'll be together for the next couple of hours, learning, connecting, imagining ways we will take action beyond this moment, beyond these walls. We'll be remembering today also why working together will bring about a more equitable world. Starting here, starting local. Food justice advocates are here, educators are here, farmers are here, parents in the kitchen. We've all been planting seeds of justice in our own fields. That's pun intended. And it's time to harvest equity. Dr. Lopez and our friend Dolores. Dr. Lopez is Executive Director of the Center for Farm Worker Families. She's an emerita professor and taught courses in biology, environmental sciences, ecology, and botany in the Department of San Jose City College for many years. She has a PhD from UCSC in environmental studies, where she studied the impact of the North American Free Trade Agreement on the farms of West Central Mexico. Her book, entitled The Farm Worker's Journey, summarizes the results, arguments, and conclusions of her research and was published by UC Press. She's been recognized for her work by the US Congress and many organizations. She was chosen as Woman of the Year for 2013 and 2014 by the National Association of Professional Women. In March 2018, she was chosen for the 16th annual Cesar Chavez Community Award in Watsonville, and as Woman of the Year by Mark Stone in 29th District in 2019. Welcome, Dr.
I'm talking about farm workers, and much of what I have to communicate is not really positive, I'm sorry to say, in the celebratory environment, but I argue that farm workers make up a slave subclass modeled after the slavery model from the South. Between 60% and 83% of the farm workers in our area are undocumented, depending on which resource you look into, and many are from Oaxaca. They live in constant fear of real fear of deportation and having their families torn apart. And prior to 1863, California was destined to become a slave state. We haven't. With different rules, regulations, laws, penalties, agricultural exceptionalism, and fear tactics that keep farm workers trapped, controlled, and from which escape is nearly impossible. Farm workers are impoverished, often abused with minimal or no health insurance. They're overworked with a poor diet and die at a much lower life expectancy than the rest of us. Farm workers and their family members are the most exposed population to the health impacts of toxic pesticide exposure. And quite frankly, I am sick and tired of meeting too many children of farm worker parents in this area who have various cancers, including leukemia, bone cancer, brain cancer, other forms of cancer, also birth defects, ADHD, autism spectrum syndrome, learning disabilities. These things are rampant, and it's almost impossible to get any data on how frequently these things happen. Dr. Katie here and I spent a good part of yesterday talking with a farm worker mother who has a daughter, 13 years old, who is currently dying of osteosarcoma, a bone cancer, and seeing the grief that these people go through. And like I said, these are not isolated incidents. We know that if these conditions were common in North Santa Cruz County or in Los Gatos or Saratoga, there would be a huge uproar. There would be studies. Somehow, farm workers are just not important enough to run these studies and to create outcry about. And so this issue is normalized. Why are we normalizing this tragedy in our own community with the people that actually feed us and keep us going? The same thing happened with the Pajaro flooding. People knew, Monterey County knew for years that that levee was going to break. And sure enough, on March 11th, it broke and destroyed the town of a farm worker community, creating incredible suffering and misery. Why is this even allowed? Why could we have stopped this from happening? So I think there's 3 steps that we can all take to transform the lives of farm workers. One is comprehensive immigration reform. No one who works weeks, months, and years in the field should be worried about deportation. The entire industrial agricultural system that currently supports us would collapse without them. I consider them to be the most essential workers. Why do they have to live in constant fear of deportation and poverty? Our Senator Alex Padilla has introduced the registry bill, which would provide green cards to millions of undocumented workers, including farm workers. And there are 2 broad legalization bills in Congress now, H.R. 1511 and S. 2606. And I recommend the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights website for more information if you're interested in more information on this topic. So that's 1, comprehensive immigration reform. 2, a living wage. Farm work. Farm work is too important to support an impoverished population of people who have to depend on charity to get basic essentials and their needs met. They should not have to depend on charity. They should get a living wage and be able to go to stores and purchase the things they need, just like any of the rest of us do. And then a third thing they need is a contract with their employer. According to a UC Merced study, 22.5% of farm worker wages are stolen by the employer. And without a contract, they have few legal options with which to recoup their wages. So a contract would give them the power to go to an attorney and file legal action so that they could get the money that was stolen from them. Beyond this, the industrial agricultural system itself that's responsible for our food supply is completely unsustainable. According to the World Wildlife Fund, Since 1970, over 2/3 of all wild animals on this planet have died. They've been eliminated, largely through habitat destruction and poisoning of the earth. And we have one of the worst pesticides right in our area that's used extensively in industrial agriculture, 1,3-dichloropropene or talone. It's drift prone. In fact, it can drift 7 miles. That's all of Watsonville. It's carcinogenic. It's a Prop 65 carcinogen. It's a toxic air contaminant. It's been banned in 34 countries, and more than 1 million pounds were used in our area in 2021. Now, more than 88% of all talone applications, talone is another word for 1,3-dichloropropene, more than 88% of these applications occurred in the 14 Latino majority Monterey and Santa Cruz County zip codes. 77% of Latinos and 66% of indigenous people live in this area, in these areas, but only 18% of the white population live here. This is pure environmental racism. The Department of Pesticide Regulation is charged with, quote, regulating the use of dangerous pesticides as an agency of the EPA, California Environmental Protection Agency. However, guess where their funding comes from? It comes from the agrochemical companies. A slight conflict of interest. And instead of regulating talone to the scientifically safe limit of only 0.04 parts per million, the Department of Pesticide Regulation has selected a cancer risk level that allows for 14 times more talone in the air that farm worker communities breathe. No wonder we have so much cancer in the kids in this community. Why are we allowing this pesticide use here with the specific populations when it's been banned in 34 countries? This is absolutely cruel and insane. No one is winning in this system except for the agrochemical companies that manufacture and profit from the sale of the poisons upon which this system depends. There are any number of studies that indicate that a transformation to organic, regenerative agriculture worldwide could feed the entire world's human population and provide much healthier food and healthier bodies. Why aren't we doing this? I am happy to report that California is the leading organic agriculture state in the country with over 800,000 certified organic acres. The live soils of organic regenerative agriculture also reduce greenhouse gases by drawing them out of the air and into the soil where they can promote new life in the soil. And farm workers are also affected by climate change resulting from greenhouse gases. There were farm workers calling me last fall complaining that it was 108 degrees in the field where they were working. Many of them were fainting and their supervisor would not let them go, which is against the law. So it's imperative for all of us to join in the fight for the transformation of our agricultural system so it's a more humane and healthier system. And I'd like to advise you to go to our website, farmworkerfamily.org, and learn about the work of Center for Farm Worker Families and an organization we're partnered with called CORA, Campaign for Organic Regenerative Agriculture. We want to convert all of Santa Cruz County to organic regenerative agriculture. Thank you. So please join us in this effort. One of the biggest strawberry growers, Driscoll Associates, we have asked them to please convert conventional farms, especially near schools, to organic, and they have not given us an answer on that. So maybe you can put some pressure on so we can get there faster. And also, before I conclude, let's do all we can to end slavery in this state once
and for all. After working for farm worker rights since I was 25 years old, starting out in Stockton, California, helping out the braceros that came here, and helping them when Cesar and I started the union, United Farm Workers. And, and we think we did make some gains. I think of all of the farm workers, and I know many of you know the history, and those of you that don't, which I'm sure a few, I would recommend that you watch the movie, Dolores, by the way. That's the name of it. It's a documentary about my work with the Farm Workers Union. And in that documentary, and not completely, but you will see the people that gave their lives, the 5 martyrs that were killed in the farm worker movement. Our first martyr was a young girl from Boston, Nat Bremen, who was killed in a strike in the cane fields in Florida, run down by a truck. Young Jewish girl. Our second martyr was Naji Dakwala, a young Muslim from Yemen. Our third martyr, Rufino Contreras, killed in Calexico, gunned down by many, many bullets as he walked into a field to talk to some strikebreakers. And Juan de la Cruz, who was killed in Arvin, California, shot in the heart by a strikebreaker. And Rene Lopez, a young man who organized his company in Corrales, California, to vote for the union. And when the workers voted for the union, he was called to a car. They said, "Come here, Rene." Put up his head to the car window. They pulled out a gun and shot him in the temple. And then all of the farm workers that went to jail, many who were beaten. Now there's another book called Fighting for Our Lives, which tells about that strike. And what did we gain for all of that? And Caesar's fast that he did, the last fast that he did was against pesticides. He did a 36-day water-only fast to bring to the attention of the American public of the pesticides that were being put on our food. And we actually went door to door in the valley to show pictures of the children that were born with these horrible deformities. Children born with no arms, no legs. Children, fetuses, no brains. Children born with no brains, can you imagine? And that may have shortened Caesar's life because he died very young. He was only 66. Both his mother and his father lived to be 100. Caesar died at 66. And when we see that we're still kind of, maybe not quite at the same place, because God knows we got the toilets in the fields that the farmers didn't have. Talk about treating people like slaves. And we can imagine what that was like for the women. Las mujeres que no tenían sus servicios en el campo, no? I mean, when you talk to farm workers and they say That's the greatest thing that they talk about. We got the bathrooms, and we got the drinking water, you know, and they got rest periods. And some of these things, of course, are now law. So farm workers have bathrooms all over the United States of America, whether they like it or not. Whether the growers like it or not. But as Dr. Lopez just told us, we have such a long way to go. We have such a long way to go. And many of what she mentioned, the only way, in my estimation, Dr. Lopez, and I know you probably agree with me, the only way that we could stop the use of these deadly pesticides is to put it under health and human services, okay? Take it out of the EPA, take it out of the Ag Department. And it's not just the farm workers that have so much cancer. The United States of America has the highest cancer rate in the world. I mean, all of us know somebody that has cancer or is dying from cancer or that's died from cancer, you know? And we know that the pesticides are probably one of the biggest causes of that. And the oil companies, by the way, are very much involved with the production of pesticides also. The last time I was here in Watsonville, there was a man out front gathering signatures for a referendum that's going to be on the ballot in 2024. And he was saying, help the farm workers sign this petition. But that was what they gathered the signatures for, by lying to people to sign them, because we passed a law in the last session of the legislature to ban the oil companies from putting any wells near schools, near community centers, or near churches. And we passed the law in Sacramento. And Governor Newsom signed the law. Well, guess what? They gathered enough signatures. Now it's going to be on the ballot in 2024 to undo that, so that the oil companies can keep digging oil wells that have, you know, poisonous gases that escape from oil wells, again, that cause so many illnesses. You know, in addition to all of the things that you listed there, Dr. Lopez, I live in Bakersfield, California. You know, 60% of the oil that we use here in California comes from Bakersfield area, okay? And the children there, in addition to all of the ills that you mentioned, is actually affecting their mental abilities also, because we have the worst air pollution that is caused by the oil wells, okay? And also the pesticides and all of that is used. So I guess we can say that we have a crisis. We have a crisis in California. We have a crisis in our country. So, and if we want to add to all of the other things that farm workers and their children do not receive, is a quality education. You know, they don't get the quality education. And this is one thing that our foundation, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, that we have been fighting. And we've had to sue the Bakersfield High School District there in Bakersfield, California, because they had expelled, kicked out of school in 1 year, 2,500 children of color. In 1 year. So we sued them, and from that 2,500 expulsions, it is now less than 21 a year that are being expelled, okay? That at this moment in our country, in the United States of America, I'm calling it an awakening. People are really getting woke. You know, they're just saying that, well, we're getting woke. And so people are fighting back and people are organizing. So I think that we have a very unique opportunity right now in our country to make changes. Sometimes the people will say to me, wow, I wish I would have been born in the 60s, okay? And I tell them, you know what? This is the 60s in steroids, okay? This is the 60s in steroids. Steroids is happening right now. Because we've got all of these tools at our disposal that we didn't have then, you know? You don't have to go on the school bus all the way to New York City. You can just use your cell phone and you can contact people on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and get the word out there. So I think the one thing that we know that we have to do is that we just have to commit to do, just like we made the commitment to be here today, that we're going to take that commitment further and continue organizing and organizing. And we mustn't forget the ultimate thing that we have to do to change things is to elect people who will be on our side, okay? And I do want to congratulate all of you for sending Robert Rivas to Sacramento to be the speaker, okay? I have to tell you that he's doing a great job. I've been up in Sacramento lobbying on a couple of bills, education bills and other bills, and people are saying, this man is doing a good job. And he's not afraid to use his power as speaker, but he's doing it in a just and a compassionate way. And that's what we need. We need great leaders, and thank God that you sent us Robert Rivas. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And I'm going to end with a couple of things. One of our fights that we have to do is we have to end racism, okay? Because we know it's very prevalent, and that is, of course, what is affecting the farm workers, the children, and it continues, of course, to affect our community. And so I have made a promise to myself that anytime I speak, I remind people that our human race, Homo sapien, that's who we are, we're Homo sapien, our human race began in Africa. I like to remind people of that. You know, and I wish everybody who's a teacher here would teach that in your classroom. So we are all Africans of different shades of colors, okay? And so I would like to ask everybody in the audience, take the hand of the person next to you. Agarren la mano de la persona que está cerca de usted, okay? Turn to that person and say, hello, relative. Yeah, because we know, I like to say this, that the only way the Homo sapiens, us, survived on planet Earth is because we took care of each other, we protected each other, and we shared whatever we had. Because we were the smallest of the big mammals, and they could have had us for lunch, okay? But they didn't. And so, you know, this gathering here is very much like that. We've come together to fight for farm workers, to fight for their families. And Dr. Lopez mentioned, and also our hosts here, they mentioned that farm workers are essential workers, right? When we think of, we can say that they are the most essential workers, right? Our firemen and our policemen, our healthcare workers are essential workers. Well, you know what? Farm workers should get the same kind of pay and benefits that the firemen get. So let's make that our goal. Let's make that our goal. In addition to getting rid of the pesticides, to promote organic farming as much as we can, and again, maybe getting some help from the Department of Agriculture. You know, the two departments that have the most money are the Department of Defense, okay, and the Department of Agriculture, all right? So, okay, let's go. Who's got the